I'm Paul Higgins, an ex-corporate executive turned business owner who for 5 years struggled to grow a cloud consulting business whilst battling a chronic disease. With the help of mentors and experts, I got the business model right, built a sales and marketing engine, and developed a high-performing team that ended in a successful exit. I received a kidney transplant from a mate, and now on my second life, I dedicate my time to helping other cloud consultants scale quickly with less effort to enjoy life. Detecting an accent, I'm an Aussie working globally from Melbourne, Australia. I interview successful cloud consultants sharing their scaling stories to give you inspiration and practical tips. I have dedicated experts for cloud consultants on the show to save you time and money by working with the right people. If you want to scale quickly with less effort to enjoy life, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Paul Higgins and welcome to the Cloud Consultant Show, episode number 486. Today's topic is a masterclass on using inbound content to become the number one Zoho partner in the US. And you're going to learn lots. But one thing you're going to learn is that consistency is the key, and there's no better time to start than today. The second is the media assets to create and when to create them. And the third thing is a golden tip on webinars that I've never heard before, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. If you're a first time, welcome. And if you love what you hear, please subscribe. It is for cloud consultants. So yes, if you consult and deploy on a SaaS platform, it doesn't matter the platform, you're in the right place. And if you're a regular, thanks for your support. Love to hear from you. Paul at paulhigginsmentoring.com. Send me an email and also suggest some topics, or maybe you know a guest or would love to be a guest yourself. There's a link and summary of the key links within the notes that you're listening to, but also you can get the full transcript at paul@paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast, because I think you're going to need this one. But before we go into the interview with Brett, I'd like to thank our sponsors. The first is Cloud Consultants Collective. Well, it's the world's only revenue-focused collective for cloud consultants, where you can get answers quicker than what you can out of YouTube and Google. Don't believe me? Try it for yourself. Just go to the cloudconsultantscollective.com to join for free today. And the other is Workflow Academy. Are your top performers overworked? Is there a risk that they might also leave because they're overworked? If that's the case, we've got an innovative solution to help with that. We bring in highly trained junior talent to support your top talent. It's a fantastic idea, and you can find out more at paulhigginsmentoring.com/WFA. So before founding Zenatta, our guest today, Brett, spent 25 years in the IT channels. I'd say he started with the Founding Channel Solutions Group, a full-service sales and marketing organization specializing in value-added channels for tech manufacturers. And as part of the executive team, he led, lots of solutions. He worked across both the vendor side and also the value-added reseller side, so he fully understands that. That's where his experience that he shares today is so valuable. And over the time, he's impacted over 50 companies with their channel partners, including Cisco, McPhee, Citrix, VMware, just to name a few. And Brett is also the host of the CRM Zen Show, a weekly podcast focused on the Zoho suite of products. And what I'll do now is hand you over to Brett Martin, founder of Zenatta Consulting, and also the CRM Zen Show. So excited to have you here, Brett.
Glad to be here, Paul. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, look, we've had some fantastic conversations off air, but it's about time we put them on air. And you can share the fantastic things you've been doing at Zenatta with the rest of the partner network out there, both Zoho, but a broader network, because I think, some of the things you're doing are world-class. We're going to dig into those. But why don't we kick off with who your ideal clients are and what problems you love to solve for them?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think we'll get down to this a little later in the show, but I think our ideal client really, it's not necessarily a particular industry. I think it's more like a certain mindset, right? We're fortunate in that we can kind of choose clients, but you can kind of tell when you get on a phone call with someone after a little bit if they're going to be easy to work with or they're going to be difficult to work with. So, we really want those clients that are just, you can tell they're easy to work with. They get it. They want your help. You know that things don't go wrong all the time, but occasionally there are little bumps in the road when you're doing development for people, and you want the kind of person that isn't going to be, hysterical and upset and screaming and yelling. You want someone who's going to go, hey, this isn't quite working. What can we do here? And you can work with them to get through that and fix it. So, for us, it's just someone who, clearly could use our help. They're struggling getting their ERP, whole system set up and running. They're not really getting things going with their CRM. They're having trouble here. They need automation. They understand that, there are certain things in their business that just take up way too much time, and they want our help getting all of that going. It's also really good if they kind of have some idea around business process. Oftentimes we give them a little homework around, let's discuss your business process. Sometimes you got to hold their hand. That's fine. But I think, it's a crazy thing to say, but the ideal client is someone who I would like to go have a beer with,
or a wine in your case, hey?
Or a glass of wine. Exactly. It's just, you talk to him, you like him, you hit it off. It's the great thing about, you're interviewing people all the time, but the great thing about this business is, number one, you get someone on the phone and you're like, wow, I didn't even know that was a thing. I had no idea you could make, what a great idea. And then you start to talk to them about where they live, and, and then you hit it off, you start discussing their life, and it's fun because you're meeting a bunch of really good people, and, and it makes it easy. So my ideal client is just that, someone I'll have a glass of wine with, right?
Yeah, great. And has it always been that case? Were you really strict at the start? Because I know you got a great pedigree and corporate background. Was it like that at the start, or were you a bit scrappier to begin with?
I would say in the first couple of years of our existence, I might have ignored my spidey senses a little bit, Maybe we were trying to make a number for that month, and I thought, they'll work out. That's okay. They seem like they might not. But so no, it's not always. I'm older now. This is not my first rodeo. So having been through this, I did have that rule in place when we had started Zenatta, but I have ignored it a couple of times, and it has never worked out well for me.
Yeah.
It's never worked out well. I'll tell you a story. We had someone who was really a major client who shall go unnamed. Okay. But they have, in the United States, they've got a big real estate show. Right. And there's a bunch of them like this. They buy homes, clean them up, flip them, sell them. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're talking to the team, and it's going well. And I think we're going to bring them on as a client. And then the guy says, well, this better go well, because if it doesn't and you make one mistake, we will destroy your lives and your company. And I went, all right, well, we're not doing business then. Good luck finding someone. That's a classic example of the kind of client you don't want, right? But anyway.
Yeah. And look, and you're right. We've all had them. You're sort of listening to Brett, and you're probably nodding your head going, yeah, look, if it seems too good to be true, chances are it normally is. And what are some of, the size? Like, you talked, that was a really big opportunity. What is there a particular employee size you sort of your sweet spot?
Well, we're a Zoho developer and consultant and doing those kind of things. So, Zoho is trying to go into the enterprise market, but really they fit small to mid-sized business, right? And you can stretch it to the SME up to maybe 250 to 500 users. They can handle more than that, but then sometimes become too complex with outside integrations, although they can handle it. It's just companies, when they seem to reach a certain size, they just don't even consider Zoho, right? It's always Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics or Oracle or those kind of things. So our target, we don't really have a target. It's anywhere from what you call a solopreneur, an individual company. That's all they are, to, a few hundred people. But, I would say our average client's in that 20 to 100 range.
Yeah. And look, I think, that's where Zoho's sweet spot is. And, I remember we were on a platform previously where each time a venture capital or a new board member or whoever invested in the company would say, let's go enterprise, right? Because they want as much return as they can. And you'd sort of weather the storm, and, 3 to 6 months later, that person would be gone. Maybe their money would be gone, and you'd be back saying, yes, let's stick to our knitting. And I think, the Hedgehog, if you read Good to Great, that's a fantastic book, and it's all about, be a hedgehog, not a fox. And I think that's what Zoho will continue to be strong at. So sorry, you go.
Yeah, I think they may jump the shark here. Not jump the shark. I think they might cross the chasm in a little bit from, As you look at, I think more and more companies are looking at the Salesforce.coms and the Oracles and the rest, and the multi-year contracts and the thousands of dollars per employee, $1,000 plus per employee per year that they're paying for those. And they start to say, well, we're only using a subset. And you're starting to see some of that migration come over where they're looking, because Zoho is clearly caught up on CRM and on Desk and some of the other core applications. So you are seeing larger companies start to migrate over for sure.
And there's always, smaller companies within larger companies, and there's always, so there's always opportunities, right? It's not a blanket, it's enterprise and then there's SMB and SME, SMB. It's never that simple.
It's funny you say that. We do have a bunch of Fortune 100, not a bunch, but in the Fortune 500, we've probably got a dozen companies where we have a division.
Yeah.
And you get that approved, and then that can lead to other things as you go through.
Yeah, spot on. Because I've never met a enterprise that's got a one stack solution that's clean across their entire business. It doesn't happen that way. So there's always opportunities, like you said, and you I think have got the essence of what makes a great cloud consulting business, and that is brilliant content. Right. I sat last night prepping for this, watching your YouTube channel. We'll have it in the links, but it's, the CRM's Zen show, and we'll have all the links in. But, you're brilliant at it. I think you create content in your space better than anyone else, but across the board, I think you're one of the best content creators.
Well, thanks. Thanks.
Take us on a quick
That would
journey.
jump ahead here, but that's our go-to-market strategy,
Correct.
right?
So,
is content from day one, content. And it's not easy, as you know, as a content creator. I mean, we started off the CRM Zen show as just a straight podcast, and then we decided we would make the jump to YouTube, which turned out to be the best decision we could ever make. And so we just did the show there. Then we said, well, let's produce some quality content around Zoho products. But then what it became, and I think the key to anybody, you've probably heard this, you've had content creators on, is absolute consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, absolute consistency. The CRM Zen show records every Friday morning at 10 a.m. It goes live on YouTube. Every Friday morning at 10 a.m., rain or shine, right? That's just how it is. That's, you can't ever miss it. Our newsletter, and we started a newsletter at the very beginning, which is here's all that happened in Zoho last week. And the newsletter is easy. It's basically the CRM Zen show is, for those that don't know, Zoho has 60 applications. So every week, there's enough news to make up an entire show that's going to go anywhere from a half an hour to an hour, where you just talk about, here's what happened with Zoho last week. This app got this update. They added this new feature. They added a brand new application, that kind of thing. Well, the newsletter really is just, here's what we talked about on the show. And so the newsletter goes out every Monday morning at 6 a.m.
yes.
Then the podcast drops. So there's the YouTube goes live, but then the audio podcast gets cleaned up, changed, and it drops every Monday morning at 6 a.m. as well. And if it doesn't, and there have been a couple of weeks where we've had a glitch on the newsletter going out, or there was a glitch on the podcast, that's not bad. Over 250 weeks, we've had probably happen 3 times, right? Man, I get emails. What's going on? Where's the newsletter? What happened? Did it not go out? Where's the podcast? What happened? Right. And so it's that consistency in just doing that, and I think, we're always looking for what more can you do? What more can you add to bring value? Because I think, as you know, the success of your podcast, and the only reason that people go to the YouTube channel to watch anything, the only reason people watch the CRM Zen show, is it's valuable. It's these really good tips and tricks and how to use the product and what to do, and real actionable information for their lives, because people who are listening to it are using Zoho. And so they find that valuable. So you produce that valuable, actionable content, and people will keep watching and they'll subscribe, and then I think it's just constantly evolving, changing the format, changing things up, doing what's better. We used to do a read of the week every week. And then I thought, wow, some of this is just trivial. We're just stuffing in something. And we would do an app of the week, an outside application that we found useful. Right. And I think we did one. I think it was a diet application one time. And we said, OK, that's it. It's over. We've gone too far. This really doesn't apply to anything. So it's like, changing things, keeping it around. And there's opportunity there, I think, for other things too, right? So at the end of every CRM Zen show, we would do a Q&A, and Tyler and I would answer the questions.
Yeah.
Well, we'd review those questions maybe 10 minutes before the show went live. And we wouldn't give them short shrift, but, we just kind of perfunctorily answer them, point them in a direction, do that kind of thing. And sometimes that would make the show go exceptionally long. And so we said, well, maybe there's an opportunity for another show where we just answer questions. And I was in the shower and I thought, ask Zenatta anything about Zoho. And I came out of the shower to my wife going, Azaz, Azaz. She's like, what, you lost your mind? I'm like, no, we'll do a Q&A show. And so we started that. And that's just been a huge success. But now what we're doing is we're bringing not just Tyler and I, bringing other experts from the company in. And we have a pre-show where we go through all the questions. We decide who's going to answer them, if we're going to do a screen show. So that show in and of itself now, the last one ran an hour and 10 minutes. So because we're kind of given that time. So that's becoming another asset. And, I guess another thing that people want to think about is you really got to think about SEO. As you're doing these things, you want to maximize them, because you can have the best video in the world about something, but if you haven't properly done the optimization on that for search, no one's ever going to find it.
Yes.
Right. And so people ask these great, amazing questions. They were tag-ons at the end of the show. There was zero SEO. Now it's its own show with its own full description of all the questions and all of that kind of stuff, thereby driving more people to you, more people find you, more people want to use your services. So anyway.
Yeah, great. And look, once again, the links will be in the show notes, but go and have a look at it. I actually just did a podcast with, I know this is episode 486. You're listening to Brett Martin. You're in the future, but I did ones of other platform plays where I've, their key go-to-market's been YouTube, and that's delivered their success. And as I said in my solo podcast, it's not easy. You said the same thing, right? And it doesn't have to be perfect at the start. Like, if I go back and look at the graphics, where you are today, I think the graphics and the design is spectacular, right? It looks like a brilliantly produced show, but it wasn't that at the start, and it was only you at the start, and now you've got your team members that are contributing to it, right?
Yeah, it was awful at the start.
Yeah, so it's a journey, right? It's a journey, but you've got to start it somewhere. And what Brett is proving here is that the best time to start it is today, right? Best time would have been 20 years ago, but no, the next best time is today. And
it'll take you, and the thing that you'll find both on the podcast side of the world and on the YouTube side of the world is that if you do that consistency and you do it, it's crazy to watch. There becomes an acceleration point. There becomes an ignition point, right? Where you're producing. I remember it took us, when we started YouTube, it took us a year to get to 500 subscribers.
Yes.
And then it took 3 months to get to 1,000 subscribers. And then it took another 9 months to get to 4,000 subscribers. Then it took then we hit 10,000 subscribers. So we're 3 years in at 10,000 subscribers. But in that first year, it was only 500. And it's because people have to find you. You've got to get in the algorithms. You get that whole little thing. And I've granted the quality. I think that the content quality was great. The production quality lacked a bit, right? But now we have a producer, and it makes life a lot easier. You can just go ahead and do all of those kind of things. But I think it's important, and like we say, consistency. Just never miss a beat. Constantly think about.
And look, I've seen people, creators like yourself, sort of take two strategies. One is where they talk about the platform, right? And they target the users and the features. And then the other is they talk more broadly about business, right? Business process, et cetera, as you spoke about. What was your thinking? And, take us through a point where, you were making a content strategy decision for the marketing assets you've created. And how did you make that decision on which was the best way to go?
Well, I felt that there was on just general product content, because Zoho is based in India, 85 million users, 12,000 employees, but the bulk of their employees are over in Chennai. And so the videos are all produced over in India, right? And so they're good, but I thought they were dry.
Yeah.
Right. They're very dry. It's just a product manager reading them. These are great people. I'm not putting anyone down, but it was kind of just dry, kind of content. And I thought, well, it might not be a bad idea to have some content with kind of an, different sensibility and different take on it and kind of go forward and drive that. So I thought there was an opportunity there. We did move into business process later on, though. I mean, in the CRM Zen show, we added this whole implementation of the week thing, which truly is around a business process and how the real use applications. And then that got broken out into its own segment as well. So that's where kind of things evolve, right? So the implementation of the week, it's like, let's do that so we can talk about real implementations and how this is applicable in the real world. And so you kind of put that out there from an implementation standpoint. And then they're like, oh, well, let's make that its own little segment. We'll do the implementation its own segment. You're doing the Q&A. Oh, let's make that its own segment. So things can kind of evolve from that. And so, and that I think, led to, because our whole strategy is inbound. And then once we reached critical mass, we started an online community. And that was another thing. And we think about it, we have meetings every year with the executive team, and we talk about what worked this year, and we go through, what everything's working, what we're doing, what's not working, what we should change. And then we decide what are our initiatives going to be for the next year. Right. And so we kind of go through, and it was a struggle with the community. We launched it in 2022. I thought it was going to be the biggest hit in the world. It wasn't. We did not like the platform we chose to launch it on. It was tough to get the engagement from my team internally, I think for a variety of reasons. Yeah. And so, we didn't give up on it, though. We took a step back. We reorchestrated the entire thing. We drove more content to it. And so I think that's constantly, you constantly just looking at things from every side, right? What can I do to make this better? What can I change? On our website, we had events. On the website, you click on events and it would say, here's all our events. Here's all Zoho's events. We didn't care. Here's other partners' events. If it's an event for Zoho, we're going to put it on the website. We're like, well, let's move that content over to the new community platform. So if you want to know where the events are, you got over the community platform. We'd have the news on there. Here's the latest news stories. Well, let's move that over to the community platform to engage a discussion around it. And then you started to really see this big uptick because you got more and more and more actionable content, driving more discussions, driving more questions, and that anyway.
Yeah, and reason to being there, right? And then it becomes more sticky. And for you, have you always been a marketing person? Like, has marketing come naturally to you, or is it something that you've had to really work on running your own business?
I guess so. It wasn't my degree in college. I was an English major in college, and I, was going to teach high school English, but no. And so, I think it was a real lesson learned life experience, from the marketing side. I was a mortgage broker in college. And so you kind of got a little bit there, but then I got into insurance, and, that's real life lessons around marketing, right? This is cold calling and physical mail and emails, and you're kind of learning all this is in my 20s, right? And I'm 61 now. So, a whole bunch kind of came into that. And I had a tech company on the side that I was doing while I owned my insurance agency. And so when I sold that, it was kind of one of those things. I don't know, strangely enough, my first real company that I was ever hired to, I was just hired as the, executive vice president and given marketing duties and sales duties. And then that never changed. So it was like, oh, he's a marketing guy. And so, but then you do learn and you kind of grow and you go through all that. And plus, I think, my background is building channel programs. That's really where my life settled, which is you need to build a partner program. I'm a partner for Zoho. So how do these companies decide what their partners programs are going to look like? How are they going to go to market strategy to recruit their partners? How are they going to do all of that? And, ended up launching an entire company around partner recruitment, partner marketing, there's, sell through the partner, there's sell to the partner, there's all of the different things and all of those different little marketing components. And so it was really trial by fire for a very long time, right? And I don't think I really figured out all the magic sauce together until I was probably 50, right? But that was just a long learning curve of a lot of businesses. Lexar and just doing Cisco's channel program and McAfee's channel program and building these programs and working for these different companies and working with really smart people, And by the way, that's the key to everything, Paul. Just hire people way smarter than yourself all the time, surround yourself with super smart people. And I just hire great people that are smarter than me. It makes my life super easy.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. And we'll come into that recruitment piece in a moment because I think you got a great philosophy on that. But just so it sounds like you sort of build up, you knew what the right partner model or the partner model that worked really well, like how do you be a great partner? And you've sort of built that up. You just sat on the other side of the fence and then you've sort of gone and done it yourself. And I'll sort of come back to this theme of marketing because, like I said, your content's brilliant, but you spend, I think you would spend a lot of time on it, but roughly, from the start, like how much time do you spend on marketing when you first started the business? And what is that today? Like how much of your time is invested in marketing?
Oh my goodness. It's funny. So when you're trying to get clients, really Google ads, right? So you're going to buy Google ads, you're going to work on keywords, you're doing all of that. And, we were spending probably $5,000 a month on Google ads when we first kicked it off. By the way, though, when we got to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we didn't need Google ads anymore. That was the crazy thing because the inbound leads actually were replacing Google ads, and now it's kind of its own thing. But, I would say we spend an inordinate amount of time on marketing. It's for me, I mean, sure, my consultants are working with the clients and the developers are working with the clients. But, from the marketing team perspective, it's all we're doing. I mean, it's really, what's the content schedule for this week? What's the social media schedule for this week that's going to promote the content? What's the newsletter for this week? What are we promoting in the newsletter? What's this drip campaign looking like that's going out on the inbound? Because we're 100% inbound, right? So when someone comes in, we are quasi outbound because we will throw people into drip campaigns, right? But other than that, we're never going to call them. We're never that's going to be extended. They're going to then have to get enough of those drips to go, oh, I think I'm going to hire Zenatta kind of thing. So it's a lot. I mean, just if you think of the production time alone, we did a webinar today. Our webinars are different. By the way, great tip on webinars. I learned this from, I can't remember who it was. I was invited to guest host a webinar. And they said, here's what we do. We get together the day before and we do the whole webinar. And we record it. And then we push it live to the rest of the world. Well, the webinar, we're going to tell you that the webinar is 40 minutes, the fully recorded piece. Everybody comes on wearing exactly the same clothes, with hopefully your hairstyle similarly 5 minutes before. And then they go now to Q&A and they throw a Q&A banner up and then you're doing Q&A. And that has just been great. So Monday we did a whole webinar recording. Tomorrow that will go live, right? But it's a perfectly executed webinar, perfectly edited webinar. But then it will be live because no one will know because then boom, they'll come on and answer all the questions at the end of the show, right? Tomorrow afternoon, we'll record Ask Zenatta Anything about Zoho, and then that'll go live on Wednesday. And then we'll do the CRM Zen show on Friday. And then there's a tip and a trick that's getting recorded. And then we've got the newsletter to produce and put together. And so, I don't know, 20, 30 hours I mean, it's way more than that. It's just the marketing team alone is probably 100 hours a week, right? That's getting put into production, all that kind of stuff. And you can say, well, that's super expensive. You could hire a marketing agency, right? Because it is. It's not cheap, but it's the best leads you can have. Yes. These are people, number one, you're a trusted advisor. Yes. They are getting on the phone. You have no idea. It's like, oh my God, I feel like I know you. It's the best feeling ever, right? You're like, hey, great. So you don't have to sell them because they already think you're great. And, these are the best leads you can get. So it's worth. My advice to any professional services organization is just build a model like this. It'll just come in spades. It really, really will. It's so hard to be out there just fishing and dialing for dollars and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, for me, it was a hard learning because I came from a world of Coca-Cola where, yes, the Coca-Cola company did all the marketing. And then, if you're in sales, you then basically did all the account management, right? So my natural strength was account management, right? That's what I did. And yes, that turned into new business, but, it was all outbound in a way because you always there was either existing clients and then you did a little bit of outbound, right? But you didn't do the marketing per se. The Coke company took care of that because in the old days, you could spend $300-400 million in the Australian market and that was enough, right? But that world's changed now. And it's the great opportunity is like Brett's showing is that you can create your own content to an ideal client that trusts you and they come and spends money with you and you don't have to have all the complexity of marketing and agencies and paid and all of that, right? You can do it. Brett's a great example of it. And that's why I brought him on the show today to learn from that. Now, we're just going to pivot for a moment.
Sure.
And talk about your team, right? Because like you can't do this all yourself and you've built a great business.
I don't do any of it, Paul.
I see your face there and again, but I see your team working very hard on the YouTube, right? And like you said, that's a deliberate strategy and it's a good strategy, right? But you've talked in the past to me about, recruiting people and then effectively building them up, right? So, to tell us a little bit about your internal development of your people and your recruitment strategy.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because when you're doing this kind of consulting, you have to know business process. So I don't even know how you learn business process. As an MBA, you kind of get it. You understand some theoretical structures of it, and you can do those kind of things. And I think that's super helpful, right? To have that degree. I don't, but I think it is helpful for people who have that degree and who can come in and do that because, a lot of people are coming into you saying, just help me. I have no process. I have no strategy. Well, what do you do with the lead? It just sits there. And what's the process with the lead and what's the follow-up and what's the this and the that? So that whole business strategy side and being able to talk to somebody about their overall sales process, their marketing process, how they're converting things, when you open an opportunity or a deal, when does that happen, right? It's different for everybody. When does a lead get converted into a contact and an account? How do you make these decisions? A lot of people they're on it. They know exactly, they know their whole process. That's great. But a lot of people, they want to know, what should I do? Yeah. Right? So you've got that aspect of it. So hiring someone with that skill set is difficult. Yes. Now, then hiring someone with that skill set who knows Zoho and is really an expert at Zoho, well, that's doubly difficult. Yeah. And then if you're actually going to be a consultant who's engaging with somebody and talking to somebody, you actually have to have a personality as well. So finding all three of those things is just brutal, right? To get that. So, and we lucked out. We found it early. We found some great consultants who could do all three of those things. They were amazing. But then as we started building things going along, we found it was harder to get that one piece. But what you could do is you could hire a full stack developer and get that person in who knew nothing about Zoho, but they were a really good developer, right? And they had a good personality, great. And then you could teach them Zoho because the coding on Zoho and learning that, you can get them there eventually, and you can kind of grow them in there. But how do you teach them the business process? Well, if you are a developer for 3-4 years, you're going to have touched hundreds of clients, worked on hundreds of processes, done all this kind of things. You're going to learn all the product line, but you're also going to learn business process, when you convert leads, why it converts, what their theory is, all of that kind of stuff. So our entire process has been really to take developers and this, by the way, only arrived at this like 2 years ago, right? Which is take developers and put them through all of this stuff and then start giving them, hey, you just take this one on your own, right? This piece of it. It's not your client, and then saying, wow, they're doing a good job, boom, 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 and then moving them up through the consultant base. And we're having good luck with that. That seems to be it. Because I think that's the hardest thing in scaling any professional services business is people. Good people. Yeah, well, you just can't have the front end. Like you've done a brilliant job on the front end, but it can't be in isolation, right? If you can't deliver it against the back end, then you're not going to get the referrals. You're not going to get the quality of work. You know how it works. And I think it's smart to do both of those, which you've done. The last quick question I want to ask you before we go into the rapid fires around, you made a statement to me that really stood out, which was around, we don't do retainer or project-based work, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, what do you do? Hourly work. Yeah, okay. And that was like, wow, okay, I've spent, quite some time trying to get everyone off hourly work into retainer-based work, right? So I'd love for you to tell us why you guys at Zenatta
prefer to do hourly rather than project-based work?
Well, because there's just a ton of scope creep that can occur, and it's almost impossible to properly scope anything in a half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, right? What are you going to, and so for us, we've gotten to the point where we can give pretty good estimates, right? You want this app, that's going to be 30 to 50 hours, right? But and we're very clear about this, you're going to want more. You don't have to want more, and we're going to guide you every step of the way, but you're probably going to want more. And because you're going to say, oh my gosh, I really want a button that I push here and I click it and it does these 9 things. And it might be fine that you want that, and it's going to save you, there's huge ROI on that, but that's going to add 10 hours to the project, right? And there always seems to be confusion on project-based work. Well, I thought that was in the project, right? Well, but no, it's not the project. Oh, I kind of read this sentence to say that was included in the project.
And I'm the customer, and I think I'm paying the bill.
Yep. And you're like, okay, great. Then fine. We'll do that for you. And I've talked to a lot of consultants, I said, that have left project-based work to hourly. And I said, well, we did one project where I think we made about 99 cents an hour on the entire project, because it's just because the scope creep got them. So we moved that way. We also moved to a minimum engagement, because you can't really get to know a client in less than a certain amount of time. Right. And so you want a client that's going to kind of agree to that.
And what is that minimum engagement?
It's 20 hours.
Yeah.
So, and we're 200 an hour. So you're basically, it's $4,000 to engage and get going. And then from there, and it doesn't matter. We'll have a client will say, wow, this is going to be 100. This would be 300 hours. Right? We're going to still 20 hours is what we're going to start with, right? And then kind of go and build and kind of go through the entire project. Yeah. But it's worked out really well. Clients are very happy. We built a massive portal. That's the other thing. I think client communication, that constant visibility, right? Of here's what we're doing, here's when it's done. Constant communication. The worst thing for a client is, you don't talk to them for 2 weeks. They have no idea. They haven't gotten an email. I know developers, they're slaving away building the most massively beautiful thing, but they didn't communicate it to the client, and the client's upset. But if that was communicated, hey, we've hit milestone 1, we've hit milestone 2, and here's what we've done. Here's a video of the progress so far. You just take 2 minutes to send that out to them. It keeps they realize they're not forgotten, lost, and it's kind of very helpful. Keeps everybody.
I think it's brilliant. I don't know. I always recommended that, like even when we were back at working with clients, corporate sense at Coca-Cola, it's the exact same thing, right? Because unfortunately, people are meaning-making machines, right? And they will make up meaning even if there isn't any, right? And often what people make up is not good news. It's normally bad news, right? So they're expecting bad news. They're like, they've been burnt by so many other providers that they're just expecting you to be the same. So, if you are communicating regularly, like Brett said, and it's, good news, you will just stand out so much. And then your chances of going from 20 hours to 400 to 500 hours, whatever it may be, is significantly more. So look, we could talk for forever, Brett. We're going to have you back on. You're a fantastic guest.
Appreciate you having me.
We're at episode 486 with Brett Martin from Zenatta.com and the CRM Zen show. But what I'm going to do now is get you to do something a little different, which is rapid fire. Right? So I'm going to ask you 4 questions. I'm going to get rapid fire answers to close us off. So ready for that?
Fire away.
Let's do it. So the first one is, what are the daily activities that you do to help you scale Zenatta?
Well, I think, like I said, it's just consistency. So there's no set of daily activities, but there are a set of weekly activities. So there's daily check-ins with different groups, and there's daily check-ins with different people, and there's daily milestones, and then there's kind of project check-ins as we go along. And, it's basically a constant series of, you have to know where everything is at all times, and you have to trust the people that are doing it. Yep. So, I'm basically there to say, we on schedule? Do you need anything from me? Anything I can do? I think that's kind of the key. So my daily habits are just making sure that I provide everybody the tools they need to succeed.
And what about you? Where do you go to learn more about how you can drive your business?
I'm a constant reader. It's just constantly reading. I don't know if I'm fortunate. I've got some other really great friends that are also avid business book readers and, that kind of thing. And I think you've got to constantly improve. So, if there's a book out there and it gets recommended to me by 2 or 3 people, I'm constantly reading it.
And is that a physical book?
Oh, Kindle or physical. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Next one is one wish. What's one wish we could grant you at Zenatta and the team?
I don't know. What's that line from Groundhog Day? World peace, Paul. World peace. You know what? I just wanted to keep, I guess one of the things is we've built a culture, right? The one wish for this business is we have worked so hard on this culture. As a matter of fact, shout out to Fired Up Culture. It's a consultancy we've worked with forever. They are constantly doing culture surveys. We do these little personality profiles, not to see if things bad. It's just to see, hey, you know why this person and this person don't get along? They're opposite, man. It's not going to work. So we work on this culture. We work on a culture of fun. We work on a culture of prioritizing your life above work. And my one wish would be that we can keep growing this business and just have as much fun as we are and keep this culture going, because it is not easy.
Right. And the last question is, what do you know now that you wish you had known when you first started Zenatta?
Wow, that's a good question. I've been just so quick on my answers. I think it would have been, I probably wasted several years not doing all the things I'm doing now, not having these consistent practices, these consistent things. I would have launched everything so much sooner. As bad as it would have been, we would have taken that plunge early on and right away just carved out, an extra 10 hours a week on content marketing and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And just quickly on that, I listen to a lot of startup podcasts, et cetera, and, that's the number one identifier for most successful startups is the fact that, the mover advantage, right? There's nothing better than having first mover advantage. And, I think the key call out here is if you've been waiting for the right opportunity to produce your own content to drive inbound leads, that is over, right? You're going to take what Brett's shown, you're going to go to his YouTube channel, you're going to go see his other assets, and you're going to create your version of it, right? But you're going to do it because it is what is a key ingredient to the success of all professional services firms, as Brett said, and it's your time to now do it. And Brett's been a great inspiration for you and for me to go and do the same. So Brett, thanks for coming on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks for sharing, your wisdom. And if you haven't, go to Brett's profile, go to his YouTube, go to this YouTube, and then come back to me if you really think he's 61, because I actually think he's lying.
Hey, I grew up with a beard with some gray in it today. You know what I mean?
If you're 61, I need to go see a plastic surgeon. Anyway, thanks for all your time today. It's been great.
All right. I look forward to seeing you when you're out here in the States. Take care.
Can't wait for that. What a great interview with Brett. I actually don't know how to summarize it because there was so much value, but the best thing is to go and start your journey today on creating content. I think that's the number one thing. But why don't you share the things that you learned from Brett? Share it on LinkedIn, mention him. He's very active on LinkedIn. He would absolutely love that for you, but also share it with your peers, right? You know people that need a Kickstarter, and Brett's the right person to give them that. So please share it with them. They'll think you're a rock star for doing it. Also check out our solo shows. Don't forget, if you're scaling your cloud consulting business, you want a great blueprint to success, just go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/blueprint to get your free copy today. And please take action to grow with less effort and more reward.
Learning is just one piece of the puzzle. It is now time for action. Head to today's show page at paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast. Get the links and put it into action. Head to your favorite podcast platform, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Suggest topics for me to cover at paul@paulhigginsmentoring.com. And don't wait one more minute to gain access to content, especially for you, a cloud consultant, at paulhigginsmentoring.com/newsletter. This could be the difference between wasting time figuring it out yourself or scaling quickly with less effort to enjoy life.